The brutality of animal sex and boundless violence is often given the appearance of something pleasurable. These pictures are not capable of the unambiguous interpretation typical of the rest of Heron's art. These works perhaps best illustrate, in fact, the tightrope that Herring was constantly walking, the sudden swing from superficially positive to negative, and the continuous subliminal presence of the menacing and the destructive manages to achieve a remarkable balance. Alongside the countless copulating couples, the orgies involving human beings monster this animal as the detached male and female sex organs that undergo obtruse metamorphosis. One leitmotif is the theme of sexual self-determined. Herring deals with this basic human right, however, by the use of Adrian, you're free.
Gracias a Dios.
Thank you. No te me desmayaste. ¿Quién entró después de Adrián? Eric's work is in the with an abundance of Christian motifs. In 1984, the artist was commissioned to create a stage set for the production of the ballet Le Marois du Stade et l'Enfant, disculpen mi francés, The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, pages 62 and 63, in Marseille, France. The result was monumental work, which captures the central moment of the marriage, accompanied by the cheering applause of the beings that accompany each party. A mighty hand from heaven places ring on the fingers of the hand from hell. The latter hand receiving the ring is spread out in the sign of the devil, which lends the scene a triumphalistic element. The picture, untitled, dating from 1985, pages 66 to 67, conveys in impressive fashion critical attitude toward the influence of religion and its representatives. Religion itself, a hostage, is portrayed as a fork-tongued and avaricious being that takes possession of human beings in various ways. According to the statement of the picture, the biblical messages lead to those of spiritual, emotional, and sexual autonomy. The parting technique, otherwise characterized by large areas of color, is supplemented by detailed craftsmanship and color shading. In contrast to these, we have the picture Moses and the Burning Bush, dating from 1985, pages 68-69, which deals explicitly with a biblical theme. The burning bush, through which God makes his covenant with Moses, is a symbol of an annunciation. The scene is a dense weave of dancing flames. The outlines concealed within it can only be made out with difficulty. A further mental symbol from Christian iconography is taken up in the late work Jill Stream, which dates from 1989. Left, the central figure of the crucified Christ, outlined in just a few strokes, merges with the stark contours of the cross. In the traditional sense. It is hard to say how far this written symbol can be described and interpreted as religious. Certainly, in a view of actual violence, terror, and disease portrayed in his other pictures, the inclusion of these symbols can, in sense, be interpreted as cynical. One picture that is unusual in a number of respects is the six-part painting untitled, dating from 1984, page 75, in which Haring takes a position on a current event. The painting was triggered by the murder of the Italian art historian Francesca Alinovi, who was found stabbed in her flat in mysterious circumstances on July 15, 1983. Alinovi was one of the first critics to write about the artist, like Haring, who were active on the New York graffiti scene, thus bringing the art to the attention of the European public. In contrast to his usual painting technique, Haring uses a double contour executed in black or red or varying breadth and with irregular edges. The field itself consists all over of limb figures, heads, limbs, and structures themselves filled with hieroglyphy, hieroglyphy-like signs in white, yellow, and black. Only on closer inspections do recognizable scenes emerge from the general pattern. In the middle of the picture, a hand holding a knife is seen descending and transfixing the body on a figure clearly the murder of Alinovi, stretched out diagonally across the center of the picture. A witness on the bottom edge observes the scene, albeit with closed eyes. You may pass. To whomever is waiting for me, you may pass. Hello, good morning. Hello, for sure, anytime. Welcome aboard. Unos amigos. Thank you. This is a hat that I dedicate to. Your life. Hello. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The central event is surrounded by monsters and demons, which in their turn size and swallow other figures. Haring has painted a diffuse and multi-layered picture of a murder that was never satisfactorily cleared up. The painting Michael Stewart, USA for Africa, pages 72 and 73, which dates from 1985, is to be seen as open criticism of the social conditions of the time, pointing to political abuses in his own country. In drastic fashion, it takes up the theme of a famous African-American graffiti writer who was beaten to death by the police. The victim, depicted with staring eyes and expressions of fear, is being kicked and struggled by an unknown person, while moving along a bloody river of people already helplessly submerged. Potential witnesses cover their faces, and the mighty arm of money is wrapped around his neck. The upright symbol of the cross is transformed into a calling sign. Discrimination goes hand in hand with open violence. In particular, the apartheid system in South Africa, against which Haring painted protest pictures, is a central theme of numerous works. In a striking form, the painting entitled, dating from 1984, page 64, focuses on the glaring gap between the dominant white race and the black majority, this time with the radiant cross in his hand, and as a weapon, the black figure defends himself with a kick that almost drags the antagonist out of the picture. Behind the simple gesture stands a direct summons to opposite their existing oppression. Drug abuse was a further subject against which Haring, through campaigns, murals, and posters, took a personal stand based on his own participation in and observance of the 1980s drug culture and crack use epidemic. On a large wall, which not far from a highway, stands out like a billboard. He painted a mural in bright orange, accompanied by the text "Craig is whack," which should be read by the occupants by passing cars. A formula medium which he used for good afternoon. Welcome, Uli and Adamaris. This is what we're doing. Me comprometí a leer 2 páginas por cada alumno que se presentara. Estas fueron las páginas que dediqué humildemente a mi buen amigo, compañero, alumno, maestro y compadre, Luis Camacho. Quieren mucho, pero usted. Y quien después entró fue yo. Hola, yo. Mimi. Dice que se llama Mimi. Educational purposes were posters containing his messages, coached in typical language, many of which he distributed free of charge. Pages 70 and 71. Drug abuse claim is told of victims in his personal environment too. In the summer of 1988, Jean-Michel Basquiat died of an overdose of heroin. One more time, a ver si otra vez se ríe Chris. If you are accompanied by an infant, we advise you discretion. Yeah, Harry, who as a friend and artist was a great admirer of Basquiat, erected an artistic memorial to him. For the painting, A Pile of Crowns, for Jean-Michel Basquiat, page 81, painted that same year, he chose a triangular canvas, which, like a warning sign, is edged by a broad red line. In the center looms the eponymous pile of crowns executed in black and white. Haring expressed his appreciation of his friend through the symbol of the 3 political crowns, the personal attack of Jean-Michel Basquiat. By the mid-1980s, the theme of AIDS was well entrenched in the public consciousness. Sex was no longer save a physical desire, celebrated with frequently changing partners could not be lit up. This was a fact parents confronted. He was well aware of the danger of falling victim of the disease himself. Life is so fragile. A very fine line divides it from death. I realized that I am walking in this line. The potentially fatal outcome of his illness had its effect on his own habits. I did stop having sex, but had safe sex, or what was considered and understood to be safe sex at the point. I became more conscious of being self-productive. Still, there were all kinds of things you could do, and I kept being more or less. This is the end of the page 75 and the half of the reading which I dedicate to Levi Monsalve. Thank you. It's just the half. Póngasela de él. Voy a ver. Claro que sí. Que estés muy bien. Goodbye. ¿Sabes dónde abrimos, Salo? ¿Sabes dónde abrimos la puerta? Yes, thank you. Active. But by 1985, AIDS had changed New York, although he had no way of knowing when he might fall victim to the disease himself. In his final years, he increasingly painted pictures dealing with the subject of AIDS. These are pictures with a death-run impulse designed to save others from the same fate. One memorable and penetrating picture is large format paintings AIDS, dating from 1985, page 74. The center is occupied by the head of a death-bringing monster, negatively marked with a red cross in its body, pandering to the manifold sexual desires of its victims by offering itself groping, embracing, and licking. The victims themselves are driven to an culminating in death. Two figures, their eyes obliterated by crosses, are hanging upside down by their genitals, a protruding tongue drifting lifelessly over the ground. The scenario is framed at the top by a winged death's head. In a series of drawings dated April 24, 1988, executed in red and black, filming ink on paper, Haring personifies the virus as a horned sperm, above and opposite, in impressive and drastic metaphors. He shows the possible causes of an infection, including the syringes used by drug addicts or unprotected sex in the format of male and female sexual characteristics, for each which a devil's sperm is seen to emerge. In a number of variants, Haring represents the disease as a fairly tolerable burden. No, disculpa. Tolerable burden, like a cuckoo's egg that the infected person has to carry around him. The outbreak of the disease itself is symbolized. Thank you for listening, Lenny. Esas fueron las que dediqué a ti. ¿Quién sigue? ¿Quién entró después? Ana Maris. Estas son las páginas que dedico con mucho respeto a Ana Maris. As the point of the time when the devil's sperm emerges from the egg, interestingly, there is a connection between the content of the pictures and their borders. In contrast to his other pictures, here the bright red border is broken in various places by the horns. The final drawing in this series shows a calligraphically graceful portrait of the sperm. The theme of an immersed burden appears once more in a large work dating from 1988, page 78-79 pages, within a double white border on a black ground. The moment of the outbreak of the disease is captured. Tightly bound to the back of the infected person, laboriously making his upstairs, the illness breaks out, once more in the form of a giant horned sperm hatching from an egg. The astonishing casualness and self-assurance with which Haring confronts the absence notion of death change after his own diagnosis. Throughout the 80s, I always knew I could easily be a candidate for AIDS. I knew this because there was every kind of promiscuity in every corner of New York City, and I was very much a part of all that. During a stay in Japan in the middle of 1988, Haring noticed purple spots in his body, which on his return were diagnosed as the first sign of a disease associated with AIDS. At first, you are completely wrecked. You go through a major upset. I mean, even though I sort of expected this to happen, when it actually does happen, you are not prepared. So the first thing you do is break down. I went over I went over to the East River on the Lower East Side and just cried and cried. From then on, many of his pictures take a greater Nos vemos! Sharpness and profundity. His personal situation caught between hope and hopelessness did not cripple his artistic energy, but rather vitalized all the more. As if he wanted to paint against his own fate, he created pictures of enormous strength, including words of propaganda-like characters, such as silence equals death, which was painted in 1989. Muchas gracias, Rosas. Roses. Hay una canción, ¿no? De Outcast que se llama Roses. Yo no la conozco. Between parentheses, above left. Start again. Adiós. Against the background. Against. Mentalmente, véanla como bardo. ¿Ya vino un bardo?
Bueno, que tiene una sombra de mono. No, sí, sí, no.
Sí, Bardo es la nueva película del director mexicano Alejandro González Iñárritu, de los, supongo, 3 directores mexicanos más importantes del cine. Es que es Bueno, no, es. Ah, yo admiro enormemente a Alejandro González Iñárritu. Si estás escuchando esto, we love you. Pero para mí, y que pude compararla con Pinocho, no cuaja. O sea, termina Bardo y dices, neta, es ambas, siento yo, y es solo mi opinión personal o el algoritmo, que Pinocho y Bardo son películas muy introspectivas, pero mientras Guillermo del Toro te mete en una forma fantástica y animada, para mí Alejandro González Iñárritu te mete a su casa, que veas a su esposa, a sus hijos, cómo se llevan y todo esto. Y al final de la película dices, a muchos les encantó. Yo admiro mucho el cine de Alejandro González Iñárritu, pero para mí, que no cuajó, porque al final, bueno, y como la clase del teacher, ¿saben? Dice, te esperamos, Chris. Ya, girl, ya, girl. Y me dice, ya voy, ya voy. It's not. AKA, also known as foreign class. Where we are confronted by a pink triangle layered over the latter. There is a network of silvery outlined figures that alternatively Adiós. Nos vemos pronto. Le dijo estúpido a su cabello. Voy a empezar otra vez. Layered over the latter, there is a network of silvery outlined figures that alternately cover their eyes, ears, and mouth, penetrating picture, urging the beholder to act against intolerance, ignorance, and silence. Thematically, this connection is taken up against an anti-AIDS poster, page 70. The statement silence equals death, between quotation marks, is logically extended by a further slogan, ignorance equals fear. In the Dead Chi Untitled for James Ensor of 1989, pages 82 and 83, Harry visualizes the conviction that he will live on, not in his body already condemned to death, but in his art. The two panels executed in black and white are numbered and reminiscent of the subway drawings of Herring's early days. In the first panel, we see a skeleton with a radiant key in its hand, ejaculating over over a flower bed, my bad. In the next picture, the sperm of death is caused the flowers to grow, to the great joy of skeleton. The statement made here is simply Herring's art will outlive him and still shine after he's gone. Work is all I have, and art is more important than life. He wrote in his diary. After he himself had been diagnosed as HIV positive, Herring changed his lifestyle. He paid more attention to his health and accorded less importance to sex. He focused his working energy on people he could not talk to, people who provided intellectual stimulation. At the same time, he separated from his then friend and lover, Juan Rivera. Herring, who no longer wished to be tied down to a partner, sought the platonic friendship Gil Velasquez, who became his final trusted companion. It now becomes a challenge to be with someone with whom I'm not having a sexual relationship. I discovered how wonderful it is to have a sharing and caring relationship with someone. Esta es la primera página que leo para Adamaris y es un cambio de capítulo también que se llama The Finale. In the final years of his life, Herring enriched his art with a further complexity. Because of the profound change of his circumstances, Herring felt an increased need for more demanding content in his work. Together with the writer Williams S. Burroughs, whom he had met in 1983 and whose works Herring had admired ever since his student days, he executed two projects. Under the title Apocalypse, he created a portfolio of 10 silk screen prints with an accompanying text by Burroughs, which was published in 1988. The next year, he produced a series of 15 etchings that illustrates the chapter, The Valley in Burroughs' novel, The Western Lands. His activities continued to be tireless, having opened and closed a second shop in Tokyo, executed large open-air sculptures in Dusseldorf, and prepared his biennial exhibition at Tony Sparks' gallery, which was to be his last. The loss of Andy Warhol, Jean-Michel Basquiat, Joan Dubois, and many other close friends, along with his own AIDS diagnosis, meant that this was a time marked by upheavals. Herring used a fantasy show to present a resume of everything he had achieved until then. The formally scratched canvas departed from the usual rectilinear from his painting surfaces, took the form of circles, triangles, and occasional squares. As far as content was concerned, a completely new trend became apparent, not seen in his previous works. He experimented with a paint applied thickly to a prime canvas, whereby the paint ran to the edges, leaving parts of the white canvas visible. The traces of these drapings were an essential component of the picture's opposite. His iconic messages lost to immediacy of his comic-like figures. The profundity of the pictorial structures also extends to the level of content, and immediate access for the beholder is rendered to no easier as a result. In place of the monochrome large area application of painting, we see rather more of painterly approach. The juxtaposition of figures and signs has given way to a dense wave. ¿Qué pasó, Francisco? Goodbye, Francisco. Have a good one. ¿Qué significa? Pásala bien. Thank you. Walking in the Rain, pages 88, 89, painted on October 24, 1989, documents this experimentation with form and colors. The blue canvas is coated with a dense network of white signs and pictograms. Striding across the whole is a bird-like bearing rapidly scratched out on black paint. The resulting drips and the painted drops support the association with rain, to which the title has already alluded. Dated the same day is The Last Rainforest, page 87, which conveys parallels in manners of execution. Instead of one central figure, the surface of... Únicamente dedicaré 2 páginas más, es para Ulises Modesto, y mientras tanto, y para que ya no se aburran, vamos a hacer una actividad en el pizarrón. El encabezado es Not Common Resolutions for Human Beings. Yo seguiré leyendo, por si alguien me quiere seguir escuchando, pero tenemos que ahondar en esta actividad. Eeny, meeny, miny, moe. If you get it, let it go. If you know it, then it goes. ¿Conoces el título? Me salvé, voy hasta el final. Tómalo en claro. ¿Lo puedes traducir?
Sí. Propósito, propósitos no comunes para links, para los inicios humanos, para los
Chris, Camacho.
para los seres humanos.
Propósitos no comunes para los seres humanos, que no es posible hacer de propósito si eres un ser humano. No le agarré, teacher. Ahorita
I got it.
¿Sí? ¿Serio? ¿Neta? Intenten, no. Pictures covered over and over with texture literally entangled and reminiscences in the dense jungle. Monstrous creatures are born. Human beings fall prey to their loss, while the trees resemble pieces of technical apparatus. A diffuse scenario of observability in connected links between human, beast, and nature and its entirety offers a thought-provoking image of the rainforest. These pictures stand not only for artists' incredible creative drive, but also for an inexhaustible mental potential. In Europe, Herring continued to enjoy great recognition. There, his pictures were collected long before the American one reacted. What I can understand is that in 1989 and going into the 1990s, there is resistance to my work from the American art establishment, from the American museum world. In a way, I'm glad there's resistance because it gives me something to fight against. As always, my support network is not made up of museums and curators, but of real people. Real people. On the one hand, public recognition by the man of the street was very important to him, while on the other, he suffered as a result of not being acknowledged by the museums. One reason for his sluggish acceptance in his own country was doubtless the usual course of his career had taken. Que se vea, tomen marcador que se vean. Well, I really do believe that it will all happen later, the acceptance. It is going to happen when I'm not here to appreciate it. He was to be proved right. It was only after his death will he return that his eminent importance was registered by the art world and his work honored in major exhibitions. In the summer of 1989, a commission to paint the exterior wall of the Church of San Antonio took him to Pisa in Italy. It was to be his last public working. Herring himself described his sojourn in Pisa as one of the high points of his whole career. Amid gay public interest, he painted the mural Tuttomondo, page 91. The large figures and animals executed in typical Herring fashion unite the content of every sphere of human activity. This mural was Herring's final hymn to life. ¿He visto? Ah, carambolas. Page 90. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to finish. No llores, Ana, ya voy a acabar. While still alive, ya voy. Es que ya me toca. The meaning of cockroach, the meaning of cucaracha in English is cockroach. While still alive, Keith Haring set up a foundation which bears his name, and his will specified that his assistant, Julia Grown, should continue to run it as he would have done. According to his wishes, particular support is being given to children charities and to organizations involved in the fight against AIDS. The artistic goal of the foundation is to use exhibitions and other projects to familiarize a broad public with Keith Haring, the artist and the man. His last studio picture is dated November 1989. A time when his energy and artistic activity were still intact. Page 90. As a final picture, the untitled painting occupies an important place. Within his total over, in a number of respects, it shows the cheerful theme, seemingly in mockery of all the fears. Difficult for the beholder to make out at first, his typical figures, their arms spread out wide, crowd on the large format canvas. The behavior of the shearing figures can be read as an apotheist in a gesture of mass worship and glorification. They raise their arms on heavenward. Heavenward. The large areas of barely undifferentiated, painted, enhanced this impression. For there make it hard at first sight to differentiate between the figures and the spaces between them. The short brush strokes between the figures and the spaces between them, the short brush strokes added subsequently in a different color on the contour line, result in drifts over the whole surface of the pictures, resembling a fine veil which blurs the precise painting beneath. Thank you very much. Lo logré. Y casi lo acabo. Empecé esta mañana. Son 90 y... Estos son los créditos, son 95 páginas y nos hemos quedado en la 89, aun y cuando varias no tienen más que imágenes. Ulises, your turn. No estoy viendo, ¿eh? Estoy como la hija. No vea, no vea. Ay, güey, casi. Dije, ay, wait. Me cansé. No aplaudan. Para
Respira.
Sí, para.
Breathe. R-E-A-T-A.
¿Dijo inspirar o respirar? ¿Cierto? Es la forma en la que tus ojos se dirigen en tu cerebro a los sistema. ¿Es bien? Perdón, yo lo dejé ahí. You can do it. You admirar a Batman. Ah,
Hacer que Batman escuche.
evitar que los padres de Batman sean mentiras por. ¿Quién?
Lex Luthor.
Es que hay quienes dicen que era un ladrón común, pero hay quienes dicen que era un personaje.
En algunos cómics.
Se llama Joe Chill. Fue descubierto por Batman. Le quiere enviar cartas a Bruce Wayne. Y en el cómic de The Killing Joke, uno de los 3 Jokers que hay ahí lo tiene apresado. Llega Batman, pega a Joe Chill. Y Joe Chill sabe que Batman es Bruce Wayne porque el Joker le dijo. Y es entonces ahí cuando Joe Chill le dice, ¿sabes qué? Si me quieres matar, hazlo. Tienes todo el derecho de hacerlo porque yo maté a tus padres.
Qué fuerte. Now in English.
But Batman doesn't kill him.
Dime. How do you say in English?
It's not going to do it.
How do you say in English? Feedback. How do you say in English? Morir.
Die.
Die. D-I-E. Die.
He doesn't kill
Por
him.
ejemplo,
And later, we can see in the comic that Joe Chill has a very rare disease. So Bruce Wayne is next to Joe Chill, accompanying him until the final of his death.
So you can say that it's karma.
Kind of.
It's kind of a karma, you know. La historia de Batman de la no sentí que era una trilogía como la de Christopher Nolan, pero en Chris Nolan. What is your favorite from the saga? I love the 3 of them. I love the 3.
The second one.
The second one.
I really like the Joker that
Mr.
Eh,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pero ya estás bien, hombre.
el de Christopher Nolan.
¿Cómo
se llamaba el actor?
Ah, ya, que todos amamos, ¿no? Sí, sí, sí.
4, 3.
Ah, no, perdón. Ah, no, perdón, Christopher Nolan.
Ah, es el de Christopher
Y ya
Nolan.
escuchaste. Estamos hablando de.
Christopher Nolan. Es el
Ah, sí, el que
el
ha
Batman,
tenido
es-
varios,
el Joker, ¿cómo se
ya,
llama?
Abel, qué gran actor.
Pero, ¿qué me dices de The Joker? Esa,
Ah, bueno, también.
de producciones. ¿Quién sigue? ¿Quién sigo?
Ah, me toca. No, no, hay que poner.
El Batman, es que una te queda como bien chido. El Shan. Thank you. Here I go. Just one. Sorry to eat lots of mercury. That newborn babies. Ay, qué creepy. ¿Quién es esto? Ya con la risa más baja. Voy a poner aquí a raíz, cockroach. Yo también me conflictó en cómo escribirlo. Lo vamos a hacer a ti. Vamos a poner cockroach. Y solo la palabra cockroach. Fly or learn to fly. Assault women with a silly voice.
Ay, Dios.
Saltar mujeres con una voz tonta.
Ujú.
Es la mente de Chris, no intenta entrar a ella. Sell his or her own head ledger. Aquí voy a poner her. Dance, break dance. With the pole. Bailar y break dance va separado.
Ah, ok.
Bailar, break dance con el papá. Ninguno más quiere hacerlo. Y breathe underwater y por último, die. Está bonito. Y también que hayan escuchado mi lectura, yo les agradezco mucho la paciencia y ahora si son tan amables, vamos solamente a tomar notas y encuentran que algo no está bien escrito o algo
Ahí
no
sacó un resumen.
puede ser, me puede ser, yo también. Una verdad,
Well, Japan, now Korea.
O Asia en general.
Yeah. Okay. It's later, es el nombre. Later.
El mayor. ¿Te acordaste? No eres puto.
Güey, está en vivo.
Mira, mira, huele bien loco.
Chido.
Pero huele chido.
Huele chido. Es que antes de la software no veo City Boys.
Vayan leyendo lo que,
Escribimos.
si no tienen inconveniente, para que vamos como van avanzando, ¿les parece? Goodbye, algorithm. Thank you very much for your attention.